G'day, I'm Pete Techman Coman, and he's Mark the Bearded Tech Scan, and this is the Tech Effect live from the AVoIP TV studio at ISE 2025, Mark.
It is. Coming to you live.
Coming to you live. Yes, we're at day 3, right, which is exciting. It's a little quieter today.
It's a little quieter. There's a few. I think there's a few sore heads. A few sore heads around the place today, and
yes, as it tends to be.
It's been really good though. It's usually a bit easier to get from A to B.
That's right.
Funny story. I had this morning. I walked from the south to the north press room.
Yeah.
And I thought, as I walked in, I thought I'm going to measure my steps from one end to the other.
How many?
It was 1,300 steps just to get from, and I was on the travelator, by travelator.
I was just going to say, were you standing or walking?
No, I walked on the travelator. So
as opposed to most people who just stand on the travelator, which is a pet hate of mine. It's a travelator, you can walk on it. Walk. I'm in a hurry, out of the way.
Most people would realise that you're in a hurry by the time you get there in the travelator.
People walking along and then they stand on the travelator.
Get out of the road.
It's not an escalator, people.
Rant over. Anyway,
what did you get up to last night? I heard you obviously, it doesn't appear that you have a sore head. But,
no, I don't. No, look, I'm just in the sore feet department at the moment. When we parted ways last evening, I end up heading to the Biamp Australia-New Zealand after party dinner.
Yep.
And yeah, it was good. It was
a bit of background to all that. That Biamp was previously distributed in Australia. They've taken it back, and now it's Biamp Australia.
Yeah,
right?
That's right. I think that's actually going on just 12 months. Yeah, since they've done that. So it's actually Biamp. It's a proper. It's not distributed by others.
It's a bit like Crestron did the same thing, 10 years ago or whatever.
Yeah.
They did the same thing.
Seems to have been a good decision for them, right? So,
absolutely. I think.
Yeah. So went there and it was at. I'm never going to pronounce this right, but Plaza España.
Plaza.
Nobody needs to laugh at that.
I'm sure that's not correct.
Anyway, it's the big Colosseum, and it was up the top.
You're in Rome now?
Yeah.
Well, you know where you are?
It's a big round place.
Oh my God.
On the roundabout.
Colosseum.
Right up the top with a great view. That's it. Anyway, so I went there and caught up with a few of the local Aussie guys, but the unique thing I thought that was really cool was that Rashid's gaff had taken time out of his what would be an insanely busy schedule for him. And because it was just an Australian-New Zealand event, and come to the event and was basically making an effort to shake hands with everybody in the room and say g'day and say it wasn't g'day, but it was hello, and thank everybody for their business and their support over the last 12 months. And so I just think that's a testimony to a good business. No,
I agree. I've known Rashid for, I don't know, 15 years now, from when he was back at AMX, and I totally agree. He's always given me the time of day, and has always been super. Very important person in the industry, but still, knows how to communicate and connect with people at all levels. So
it's good. So Pete,
yes,
we have a special guest, as we have the last few days.
Special guest.
Very special guest.
Very special guest.
Very special guest. I want to introduce, is actually our content partner.
Correct.
For EMEA for the show. And Mr. Sea Fcker.
How are you doing?
I'm going left-handed handshakes from BROADTEK. G'day, mate. How you going?
Yeah, not bad, man.
Yeah.
How are you guys doing? How are you finding the show?
Yeah, well, this is my first ISE in Barcelona, so I'm still navigating around. It's funny, it's a lot bigger than I expected. It's a lot bigger than Infocom, that's for sure. And just slowly working out, it's more logical than Amsterdam. It's more logical than the Rye. I mean, the Rye was over here and up there and downstairs and all over the shop. This is a better layout for sure. And I like how you can easily get between halls, even though people do stand on the travelator.
I mean, I managed to head over to the early press meeting I think Mike Blackman gave, and he was saying that they're predicting about 20% increase this year.
From last year.
From last year.
Well, you were saying that the other day, right?
Yeah,
Well, actually, now I think there's just this 20% generally in terms of size.
Yeah.
More exhibitors, more space. Obviously,
Yeah.
you know, even this space, I don't think it was there last year. 8.1. You've got drones, you've got esports, you've got so many things going on.
Yeah.
I think it's fascinating that whole integration of all of these technologies under one roof. And that's a testament to the guys at ISE and what they're putting together, really.
Yeah, yeah. And you've been busy. We've seen you and Ryan sort of racing around, like creating content. You've created.
Yeah, doing little content.
Actually, seeing that posted on LinkedIn and so on.
Well, a lot of what we're trying to do now is create like a documentary, because there's part of the story that hasn't been told. Most engineers know about things like signal transport. But most people outside of that don't really know. It just plug it in, it works, right?
Yeah.
But
Sometimes it works.
Sometimes. What we're trying to do is tell that story from composite, VGA, DVI, and that entire story and everything in between.
So that's your documentary. It's going back that far.
Yeah. Going back that far, and trying to speak to the people that were essential in that process. And you know, where we're talking about all these different, whether it's codecs and whatever they're doing, chip manufacturers, and people that are able to take part in the evolution from that early analog stage to the IP revolution to now what we're talking about, hybrid, and a little bit looking forward on what's going to happen in the future in terms of cloud integration and software-defined solutions.
I love that because I often reflect on the various evolutions that have happened. Like when there was that evolution from analog to digital, right? When HD-based T sort of came in and for distribution, and then we had Dante with network audio, right? And then there was USB, and in particular USB-C now, and there's points in time you can actually look at and go, well, this happened in this year, and this happened in this year, and this, and how, you know, we've been on this journey, and it's been sort of one technology and another technology, and it's fascinating. So
that's exactly it. I mean, you've encapsulated it and articulated it in a fantastic way. And what we're trying to do is really tell that story, because we understand that on a deeper level from, you know, being a technology consultant, you guys being SIs and yourself as well being a consultant, you know, when you've lived through it, you understand it from maybe even an engineering perspective. But most people don't understand it and appreciate the work that's gone in.
Yeah. Yeah.
So that's what we're trying to cover at the show.
Nice.
There's actually quite a bit of work in doing that. So are you going to get through all that? Are you trying to capture all that at the show, or have you done a whole lot of pre-work, and there's going to be obviously a whole lot of after-work and editing?
I've really got to big up Ryan and, you know, the work that he's done in preparing everything, because honestly I'll still be at the airport if it wasn't for him. Because he's done so much of that, and being able to do the prep work and making sure that we've got the interviews, speaking to everyone from the chip manufacturers, the software developers, the hardware manufacturers, and everyone in between, even, you know, all the different alliances. So we've done a fair amount of work. What we're trying to do, I mean, BROADTEK, most people, mainly because they see me, they think it's just me, but there's quite a lot of people involved in BROADTEK, and everyone's putting their efforts in and trying to make this happen, really. So
Nice.
So when we're talking about BROADTEK, what and who really is BROADTEK?
Well, essentially, BROADTEK is a technology consultancy, and what we focus on, where we make our money, is digital transformation. So we help a lot of businesses, whether that's particularly technology businesses, helping them streamline their workflows, understand how to work in a digital age. Because don't forget, although we work in that kind of technology sector, a lot of these companies are 40, 30, you know, they're quite old.
Yeah.
And they haven't caught up in the way of how to utilize digital marketing, how to utilize the latest sales techniques, how to really streamline their kind of operations in a way, because they've never really needed to. But since COVID, I think there's a lot that's changed, and there's a lot that we can take from other sectors like the, you know, B2C market, and how we can evolve and what's happening in a proav market and some of the other markets, and adapt it into the B2B sector, because we are solution selling. However, that old way of doing business, where we're relying on that distributor network, doesn't work as much as it used to. Yeah. You know, if you've got sales guys that really don't understand the part of the solution sell, and don't really articulate the value proposition of your product properly, and because they don't have the kind of I suppose the technical knowledge to be able to carry it through, which is, especially when we're talking about broadline distributors, I don't want to, pee on them, but the reality is that you have a transient workforce. They've got so many brands to look after, and a lot of the times they can't give that dedication to any one brand to explain the intricacies and the nuances of signal transport, extension, and AV over IP or PoE or any of these kind of technologies. So from a system integration, I mean, you tell me, I mean, most of your job is finding out whether these products fit your solution, how much testing that you have to do, because the data sheets don't tell you the real, real world implications of, changing things,
so beautiful marketing sheets.
So we play a role in helping people, whether that's in terms of product roadmap, whether that's in terms of marketing, whether that's in terms of, any aspect of their business, and that's the way what we do.
So Pete, Sia's just touched on distribution and the changes that he's seeing in EMEA. Are you seeing, or how in touch with the distribution market are you in the US? Like, are you seeing? I seeing many changes in some of the stuff that Sia's saying?
Well, I think what's a little bit different with the US compared to other parts of the world, and this totally threw me right when I first moved over there, and that was. I'm trying to think of the term that they use, but like manufacturer representatives, and they're not actually. I thought they were distributors, right?
Yeah.
And they're a manufacturer's rep, right?
Okay.
Funded head.
What's that?
They're called funded heads.
Funded heads. Okay, right. So what it is? Here I was talking to these people, right, thinking that they hold the product and they distribute the product, because those same people in Australia, that's what they do.
Yeah.
Right? If I'm having a conversation with someone there, they're only talking to me about that product because they're the distributor.
Yeah.
Right? Because there's the manufacturer is not in the country themselves.
Yes.
So I'm having all these conversations, and then I'm like, I find out, like, sort of months later, I'm like, this is like really weird. It doesn't sound right. And it's like, oh no, we're not a distributor. We're just a manufacturer's rep. And I'm like, what does that mean? And it's like, well, we just talk about the product and promote the product, and like on our side, hope that we specify it. And I'm like, well, how do you get paid? If you're not selling product, how are you getting paid? And they have to try and keep track of the things that we may specify to get a commission from that.
Oh, that's hard work.
Yeah, so it was just really weird. And look, there are a lot of manufacturers in the US. You've got your Crestrons, obviously Biamp's there, QSC's there, companies like Aurora, Extron is there. There's a lot of Shaw is there. There's a lot of local companies, and they have their own people. But there are a lot of international companies as well, right? And there's a lot of representation via these manufacturers' reps.
Yeah. Okay. So, look, from an Australian point of view, I'm looking at it. I actually think the market's changing to where C is sort of alluding to, in that a lot of the distributors now are taking on so many products in Australia that there's not enough expertise to support the products, and so they're having to lean on the manufacturer to have maybe a funded head to send them out and educate the market, and then the distributor is just a sell-through house essentially. So it's definitely interesting to see that change, which makes me wonder, as we're talking about Biamp, is that did they recognise that? Yeah. And that's one of the biggest catalysts in Australia to going.
Well, I think they took the cue from Crestron, who did exactly the same thing in Australia. Yeah. AMX to a lesser extent in Australia as well, right? So it's interesting. But speaking of products, what have you seen?
What have we seen? Well, there's been some very cool things that we've seen, and you know how I love an acronym.
Only because you can spell it.
Yeah, that's arguable. We went down to Silicon Core, and had a look at the first acronym, LED.
Yeah,
and look, they are pretty amazing LED manufacturer and supplier worldwide.
Yep.
Their COB technology So chip on board.
What you got? Well, good,
yeah,
good work. Good work.
Is extremely nice, extremely tight, very well made. And then the energy efficiency part of that means, because they're using COB technology, means they're like 40% less power to run them.
Therefore,
what?
less heat.
Less heat. Yes.
Yes. Well, that's a big factor. If you've got a big LED wall there, right?
Yeah.
And it's putting out a lot of heat, then.
Well, yeah, and to that end as well as just the power consumption. Like if you've got to run, as we were discussing, if you've got to run a big area, that's a lot of power.
No, but the heat really comes into it, because like if you've got a large LED video wall in a boardroom, and it's pumping out all this heat, is your cooling suffice in the room?
Okay.
Right.
Yeah.
So maybe it's not. Then you've got to put supplementary cooling in there, right? That's going to cost you more money, and so it has this. It does have an inherent flow-on effect.
It's definitely a ripple effect that goes on from it. Yeah. So that was really cool to see their stuff, and their foldable LEDs.
The mobile LED.
Is definitely nice. They're using SMD technology, if I recall that correctly.
SMD.
Yes.
Which is?
I can't tell you. So, what about you? What have you seen?
Well, actually, Sia put us on to this one.
Yeah.
We were talking to Sia the other day, and he's like, "Go and check out the Insta360 Room Bar," and we're like, "What?" I've got a couple.
Here we go again with acronyms, not another video bar in AVB.
And the funny thing is, right, like I've got a couple of Insta360 cameras, and they're great little action cameras. But I never thought that they would make an all-in-one soundbar. Yeah. And I was impressed. We went over there, and they've got that demo room kind of at the back there. And so they're combining their action cam technology. So they've got two cameras in the bar. They've got like a normal, sort of wide field of view camera. And then they've got an actual PTZ camera, one of their action cameras in there. So like I'm just trying to think, I haven't seen one of those in any bar, right? Everyone's using a digital PTZ, right, camera.
Proper gimbal.
It's a full-on gimbal moving around, right? It was so cool. But not only that, and it tracked pretty. Once you got it tracked on you,
Apparently didn't like my beard very much, see ya? Yeah.
Once it actually sort of found you, it tracked really well. You were moving around the room. We did a video on it, but the coolest feature of that was the whiteboard capability. So they had a whiteboard at the back of the room, and you could go up there and write on it. And what it would do is, the person standing in front of it they would basically be a ghost.
Translucent.
Translucent is probably the technical term, but you look like a ghost when you're up there.
Yeah.
And what it does is it actually picks up what you're writing and then enhances it. So it doesn't just display whatever's on there. It actually goes, well, that's a red pen that you're using. So it's like, boom, and it really enhances it. Yeah. I thought it was really cool.
I mean, the software is what really defines this. When you're talking, it kind of highlights you. If you're having a separate conversation within a room of different people, it kind of focuses on that conversation you're having. The software that they've kind of put in and the AI features within that software sets this apart from anything else I've seen. And also, I think in terms of the price point, they're very competitive.
Yeah, it was $2,000 for the bar, right? US dollars, and $600 for the touch panel.
Correct. Yeah.
So it's not crazy expensive, but
that's in the market.
Well, you think about it. Sony have had that technology, the whiteboard technology. I can't remember they've got a little processor that does it. They've had that for a number of years.
But there's also one major difference. I'm not sure about the Sony one, but certainly some of the other ones, they need another device on top of the whiteboard. This doesn't. What it does is...
the Sony one, it's, I think it's called like...
AI Analytics or something.
Yeah, or Edge Analytics.
Edge Analytics,
Edge Analytics. Yeah. It's a little box, and it basically, you plug the camera into it, and it does all that processing. But it's still, it's another box. Yeah. And it's a great technology, but I don't know $4,000 maybe, thereabouts. Right. And then now that's... What I love is that we talk about the evolution, right? Okay. This technology is now built into this camera, right? no one's done that before, right? So suddenly, this is just a standard feature that all the others are going to have to go, that's great, we're going to build it into ours as well. Standard.
Yeah. And that's the great thing about technology. We're just evolving all the time. You can't just stand still. You have to move on.
Yeah.
Well, I think with the AI going on at the moment, that it's not just evolving at the pace that it has the last 10 years. I think like we're going to go 10 years forward in 1 year or 2 years. That's how fast it's reiterating now. It's like, wow, it's actually, I mean, for consultants, it's hard to keep up,
But I mean, I think that's also a good thing for us because it keeps us in a job, right? Because if
keeps you on your toes.
Well, it does, because you got to be. That's why we're at shows like this, right? So we stay informed, right?
Well, that's why shows like this should always, continue on. So.
Exactly. Now, we came across a very interesting product. We were on the way. We're walking out last night.
I was getting hit on, Pete.
Well, and we're walking through the innovation. What do they call it? The innovation section. Yep. They're all the small
between 4 and
5, right?
Yeah.
And we're walking through, and then there's some audio playing, but there's audio playing everywhere, and it's like, and out of the corner of our eye, we saw some lovely coconuts.
Coconuts.
The lime and the coconut.
Wow. They should either be playing that song or I've got the lovely.
and we're like, what were they, Mark? Tell us what they were.
They're a speaker.
Coconut speakers.
Eco speakers.
Yeah. So the whole point was that they've got these. Did you see them?
Yeah, I've seen them.
Yeah. So they're trying to use the coconut.
They're legit coconuts.
Yeah, they're legit coconuts, and still got all the furry stuff and the husk and
stuff.
But it makes sense. I mean, like, coconuts have got great resonance, right?
Yes.
So that's the whole point.
I know. It was incredible.
Because I can't use it for anything else.
No.
Put a speaker in it.
Put a speaker in it, and it was cool. I thought, I mean, if you had like maybe an outdoor environment and stuff, it was better than a black box out there, right? Like I thought it was a really good idea.
Yeah. So if you got a pool house or something like that, that would really fit in with the whole vibe. But yeah.
But the funny thing was, so we're there, and Mark's taking photos, right? And he's like, because we thought, well, it's interesting. We'll do a post on it. And he's taken all these photos, and then there was a woman who was from the company that makes these speakers. Anyway, she walks up to him and she goes, so where are we going to end up, right? Like this. And I said, well, first of all, he's married, right? And then you said...
She could buy me a drink first,
So it was a bit of fun, but I thought it was a really, really cool product.
Yeah, it's a great product. So yeah. Tell us, what have you found that's sort of interesting product-wise?
Oh, there's been so many. The first one that comes to mind, I've got to look at the BirdDog stuff because I've been really impressed with their evolution, what they've always done. They've come up with some more cost-effective product. I think one's called the Max. Great camera. I looked at their app as well. Really easy to control, very intuitive to use. Besides that, there's a company, a British company actually, very much an engineering company called Glen.
Just back on BirdDog for a second.
Yeah.
So I've got a question for you.
Yeah.
Right. So for the last 2-3 years, they've been promising, and I genuinely love this product. I want to know if it's been released. The NDI to USB, that little pod thing.
Yeah.
Do they have that on the stand, or is it released? Did you talk to them about it? Because I think, for me, that's an amazing solution. It's $200. Like, is it out?
I did see a little white thing.
A little white pod.
I did see that on the, but I didn't ask him about that.
Wow.
But
Okay.
He's very much part of the documentary as well. Very articulate guy. Really loved the knowledge the depth of knowledge that he has, because. The reason why is because BirdDog's so important, because they were the first people that licensed NDI and implemented encoders and decoders and then put that onto cameras, right? So they've been leading for a very, very long time. I did see it, but I can't say that I know too much about that.
Right. Okay. Well, because
I mean, something you're looking for, and it makes sense too. Right?
Look, it makes total sense. And I've been, when I talk to manufacturers like box manufacturers, Lightware, Crestron, Extron, all that, I keep saying to them, like they ask me, what do you want to see in our product? I keep saying NDI. And they're like, why? And I'm like, Because nearly every decent camera on the market, a PTZ camera, has got NDI built into
PTZ.
it, right? PTZ, whatever. And so all I want to do, I just want to hook it up to the network. I don't need a transmitter. I don't need a receiver. I just want to connect it to the network and be able to get the signal over there. And even if I've got a room bar or something like that, I have to ingest it via USB. So I need to convert it from NDI to USB. And this $200 little product solves those problems. And I can't believe, I mean, I hear that there are others out there that have a product, but they're like $600, $700. It's too expensive. I need a simple solution like that. So I hope it's available. We need to go and see him tomorrow.
Tap him on the
Hit
shoulder,
them up.
mate.
Oh,
Yeah. So interesting about BirdDog though, like because that was the new Turtle guys, Eamon and Drew and Pavel. That BirdDog was
Dan. Yeah, Dan is the guy now that's running BirdDog.
Yeah.
And he was partnered up with Eamon Drew, who's now started Turtle AV.
Yeah. So they've been out for a couple of years now. So are you seeing? Obviously, the evolution of BirdDog is still the R&D is still very much going forward.
Yeah. I mean, it's an Aussie takeover. What can I say? There's so many Aussies in the AV game. You know, whether it's
BROADTEK, Dante,
they're everywhere. And I know what you guys are
Yeah.
something in the water. But I actually asked that question of that. And the thing is, he's got a really interesting answer in that sense that because you guys are in a different time zone, and also because of the fact that you don't have that easy access to be able to call the manufacturer and go, hey, sort out my problem. You've had to learn to kind of fix things yourself, right? And when you've got that have a go attitude, you go, well, I'm going to have a go and see. And most of the time, you've done it better than the original manufacturers.
Well, I don't think because the country is so remote. You're not like in Europe. All the countries are on top of each other, and they're all kind of influenced in some way by one another. And the US is such a big place, and that's relatively insular as well. They're not kind of on a whole, they're not really looking at the rest of the world, and there's a lot of great tech there. And Australia is kind of like taking the cues from all around the world, and then like, how can we make this better? And I always joke is like, if you think about engineering, the first country that comes to mind, maybe Germany, right? You think about technology, you might think of Japan or Korea, right? You think of fashion, you probably think of Italy, right?
Yeah.
Right? That kind of. Australia, what are they good at? They're good at telling you what's wrong with your product.
Yeah, amongst other things, but not many other
things. It's a bit
things.
heavy, isn't it? Mate? It's only got one port on it, mate. How much is it? No, it's too much, mate.
Yeah, 100%. So you've before we cut you off and pulled you back to BirdDog.
The Glen Sound.
Glen Sound.
Glen Sound. So they're a broadcasting company. They're very well known for kind of, I think, commentator systems. But what they've brought out now is they've got this kind of something for the Parliament, actually, whereby you can work with a voting system, work with the cameras, and it's also got Dante. And, it's really, really intuitive system that they've got. And they've actually implemented it into the Scottish Parliament. And that's something worthwhile looking at. Because, I know in that sector you've got companies like Televic and a few others. But there are very few that have implemented Dante in that world the way that Glen Sound have. And because they've got a broadcast background and an engineering focus, they've really implemented it in a very intuitive way.
Well, I was just thinking, you mentioned the Scottish Parliament. You know what solution would be really good in the Scottish Parliament? AI media. Right?
Oh yeah.
Right. So it could actually translate the Scottish, whoever's talking in the Scottish Parliament to English. It could actually do the live translation, so if you were there, you could understand what they were saying.
Yeah. At least we might be able to understand something.
It's like that Babelfish you guys you put on. That was the translation, live translation. However many languages that you put on. I saw on your LinkedIn page.
Yeah. That's AI media. Yeah,
AI media. That's what I say.
Real life
there, it'll be a hit.
Yeah.
Everyone can understand each other.
Yeah. Look. So you've done a lot of stuff over the last few years. We've been working together, and you've actually talked about. You've got this whole AV over IP OE.
Whoa!
You got it.
Hold on, it's called AV over IPOE.
Yeah. AV over IPOE.
Yeah. There you go. So that stands for Audio Video over Internet Protocol, as well as Power over Ethernet.
Yeah.
So the whole philosophy around that is actually something I made up with my old colleague Lee Payne. Big shout out to Lee Payne.
Is he here? Is he at the show?
No, he's not here. He's at home in Norway. So the whole concept around that is that when we were kind of, we've been advocating for AVoIP for years and years and years. And before COVID hit, it was really difficult to be able to articulate the value proposition of AVoIP because people didn't think that they needed it. And then COVID happened and everything changed.
Yeah.
So our whole thing was, why don't we have a methodology of designing systems that puts PoE at the forefront, at the beginning stage? The reason why is that it will essentially help you save time, save energy, and save money. Because it saves energy because you're using PoE, saves time because you don't have to wait for the electrician to come. You can run things over the cat cable. And all of that, you're saving money because you're not spending money on the, let's say it's a new place, you don't need electrical cables, you can run, cat cables everywhere. So that kind of caught on. We started doing some road shows around it, and we started advocating for that and evangelizing around that. And through that, we've found so many vendors now. You can't go anywhere that, someone doesn't have an AVoIP solution or someone hasn't implemented PoE into their products. I went yesterday on a Magewell stand. They've got some really great products. They've implemented PoE all over the place. All the time when you look at BirdDog's products, they're all PoE. One cable solves this problem. So the whole idea is ultimately, as designers, as system integrators, we've also got to look at the way that we design these systems to benefit our end users. Because it can be more sustainable. And one way of doing that is through the way that we design the solutions.
And look, sustainability is one factor, right? So I am on the design side, and if I'm designing a solution and I had two products that I could use, and one was was PoE, and the other one needed a power supply, I'm not choosing the one with the power supply. I'm choosing the PoE device, right? Because it's a power supply, as we all know, other than, say, Extron, right, who make exceptional power supplies, everyone else is crappy power supplies.
It's a weak link.
And that's the weakest link, right? And they overheat, they die, and then you've got to replace it, and you've got to get up in the ceiling, and blah, blah, blah. So for me, it's just a given. And once again, when I have these conversations with these manufacturers, it's like, it's got to be PoE, right? And they're like, oh, but it needs 65 watts. So what? So what? The Sony camera, the PTZ cameras, the beautiful SRG A12s and A40s with the tracking and stuff, I think they require 65 watts or something like that of power. That's fine. That's fine. A lot of companies, especially in corporate America, they're putting in switches to accommodate that anyway, so it's not an issue, right? Manufacturers come up with excuses or reasons why they can't do something or shouldn't do something. That's not actually even a real reason in reality.
And there is pushback. The weird thing is that I think one of the things, certainly within the EMEA market that we find, that a lot of system integrators have gotten too used to selling black boxes. And that whole way of, if you're selling black boxes, you've got to look at the future. Things are going to change. Things are already changing. When we look at software-defined solutions, that's a driver. And so what's going to happen is going to be another revolution. We've had this IP revolution. There's going to be another revolution on top of that, where it's software-defined, where the software is driving and the hardware is supporting. So that means that the hardware side, and again, one of the press meetings we went to was the Panasonic thing. So Panasonic has been brought out by an investment, I think, equity company, another Japanese equity company, that have taken an 80% share in Panasonic. And again, one of the questions I posed to them was, does that, because they were talking about their strategy and what's going forward, and essentially saying, yeah, we're going to go a software way where hardware is there to support that software.
Was that the video? You posted a video on that? I saw that. Yeah.
So what you're saying, just for clarity, if essentially you just got a chipset, you'll continue to evolve the software and just keep deploying it over the chipset.
Yeah, I think what's going to happen, you've got a situation within proav, you've got all of these manufacturers selling these black boxes, right? They've got a black box for everything, scaling, EDID management, whatever it might be. All of that's going to change. It already has changed with software, right? So you don't really need if you want something on premise, you've got a server. If you want it now, so much is on the cloud as well. You've got that option. Essentially, in terms of the hardware, you're going to need a display, you're going to need something to listen back on, some speakers, microphones, and cameras.
That's right. Look, you're still going to need a display of some sort, you're still going to need a microphone, you're still going to need a camera, you're still going to need speakers of some description in the room. And that's kind of the hardware that you need. Obviously, you still need to be able to connect and share and do all that. But I totally agree. I think I mentioned to you, I'm catching up with someone tonight for dinner, and they've built, Paul from Innomate, Paul Uchucci from Innomate, and he has built this software this incredible software platform called Intermesh.
Another Aussie.
Yeah, and it's a part of what they do. It's not the only thing they do, but it's a control system with no processor. It doesn't need a processor. Bang,
well, yeah, exactly.
There's a processor somewhere, but it's not a local processor.
Well, that's what it is. It's like the hardware really, I can see, besides these edge devices, is there to control the software. Yeah. As we've seen in audio production, right, the DAWs. What they're using now, most of those DAWs use a control surface. There's no processing in there. All it's doing is whether it's a rotary potentiometer or linear, or whatever you want, a touch screen or whatever, to be able to control the software that you're doing. That's the role that hardware is going to play.
The interface. You're still going to need an interface.
Exactly, yeah. Something tactile, something intuitive. Because you're not going to get away. So some people don't like, a mouse isn't the best way of being able to move around a lot of software. Sometimes it's easier to move around, maybe a joystick or maybe a pad or some kind.
Or even a pen or something.
Whatever it is. But that's the interface part that hardware is going to play in the future. And it's already starting to happen now.
Yep.
So, I think when you're looking at that, that's going to make a lot of difference in terms of not having all of these black boxes. It's going to be more sustainable. What are we spending our time and money to, being able to develop is that software piece. And the great bit about software is with a firmware update, you'll completely change, the functionality of that software.
You've mentioned the word sustainability a number of times, like in the conversations that we've been having. Is that a factor in Europe? Like, do you see that as a factor? Is that a conversation that comes up where we need to be more sustainable? With the products and things like that?
Inevitable.
No, but is it a conversation that's having?
It has to be.
But is it swinging?
Because I'm not having those conversations with anyone in the US.
Is that right?
Well, especially when you get to a certain level, what's going to happen on that, especially on a corporate level, is that you're going to have to deal with people that do that, because if you don't, you can't do business with one another.
Yeah, no, and a lot of that's driven by, like as I said, regulations and all that. That's what and hence my question, because I said I don't work in this market.
Well, one of the great things I can use as my good friend Lee Payne. So Lee Payne works for a big integrator called Atir in Norway. They're like a massive IT integrator. And their whole thing is about sustainability.
Really?
What they're trying to bring on board is, one of the guys that we've worked with before is Thin Labs, which do these NUCs that are PoE. And the amount of energy that in itself saves by them being able to specify that particular product, stands in its own. So, I think sustainability, certainly in Europe, and what I'm seeing, it's a big picture.
Wow.
Yeah, that's great. Well, look, it's been great to have you on the show. We really appreciate it.
Thank
and look, make sure anyone who's following our content, go over and follow the broadcast. Say good day.
We're partnered with BROADTEK. We're sharing our platforms and sharing our content to have a wider reach. Because
can I also shout out Ben? Ben, big up, mate. Nice one.
Good on you. Thanks, I really appreciate it. Pete, we got to wrap.
We do.
We are here again tomorrow.
Not
the same bat time or same bat channel.
2:30 tomorrow.
2:30, time to go to the dentist.
2:30.
So let's cut across. Thanks for tuning in to the Tech Effect. Make sure you join us tomorrow. And now stay tuned for another episode of Avixa TV coming up next.